minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, everybody. How are you doing today? Welcome to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast. This is episode 87, and I horribly messed up the intro, but you know what? That's what happens when you're live. It always, you always sit there for 5 minutes waiting for the time to come, and then when the time comes, you drop the ball. It's just how it goes. Anyways, today, we're following up on a really nice drop of monthly reports following November and December. Star Citizen generally doesn't put news out about their development until later on in January after they've had time to come back from holiday. So we got a nice monthly report with some pretty interesting stuff and honestly just a lot of topics to talk about. So I decided to bring in a podcast, a Launch Sequence veteran and a friend in the community, SaltEMike, so that we could talk about the salt and the sugar following these features. Is that a weird thing to say? Can I say? I know salt
that's
is
okay.
a thing. Yeah, can I say sugar? That's
Yeah,
fair. Whatever. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, how's everything with you? Traveling a lot, I saw.
Yes. We make travel a monthly thing at this point. We're back and
So
forth.
what part of the world are you in now?
We're in Turkey again now. So
Okay.
Yep, Black Sea coast, good food. Not as much ability to communicate with people, but a lot of fun. This is where our house is right now. So we're back here for a decent amount of the wait, I'm sorry. I'm hearing that you're muted.
Yeah.
How would you be muted?
A few moments later.
We can hear. Okay, that's dude.
Turn it off and turn it on again, the meme.
I hate technology. I do. I'm sorry. It's a blessing, but oh my gosh, it doesn't make any sense sometimes.
Nope.
So, we don't know if the entire podcast, the whole intro is defunct. So we're just gonna start over. All right. Let's just jump straight into Star Citizen, man. How has the year been treating you so far? It's been just like 318 PTU and 317 point whatever number we're on now.
I'm refusing to play 317. I'm done.
Yeah.
No more 317 for me. So
Dude,
I know they just put out a patch last night, but I'm only just playing the 318 PTU, checking that out, giving it a go, making some issue council reports. I was doing that today, and just a few, but not trying to play it too much right now because I do really like, if you look at the features like in a vacuum, they're really, really fun. If you just go out and do secured post Korea or cargo refactor or salvaging or racing by themselves, very, very fun. And I want to enjoy them when 318 is live, when it's more stable, when it means a little bit more with the wipe and all that stuff. So I want to go through all that stuff later, and I don't want to burn out. We all know that like eventually patches get boring. I don't want to speed that process up for myself. So I've been playing a lot of like other games and hanging out, talking, just relaxing and waiting for things to stabilize a bit more.
The score of a patch is based on how many weeks it takes for it to get boring.
Yeah.
You just want to go as many weeks with fresh content as possible. I get you though. I think what I try to do in PTU is like dive really hard into features and test them, and then hopefully when the patch goes live, I'm just kind of like generally playing the game, and I hope I more run into those features than like actually actively try to play them. And it's nice when you do run into them and you're like, hey, it's actually working. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I remember a few weeks back when it wasn't,
Yeah. So you've been playing some other games just to veer off the Star Citizen road just a little bit. What have you been playing?
Mountain Blade Bannerlord mostly, and then some Warhammer 40K Darktide. Yeah. So those two have been the ones that I've done mostly played, but Bannerlord has been the most fun for me.
That
it's just
RTS?
It's hard to describe, kind of, but it's like you're a character, you're an individual character, and you start out as a nobody, and you hire mercenaries, and they get like I guess they're more talented, and they you could choose, they could become archers, they become riding on horses, things like that, and then they're big, huge scale battles that you command the battles with. And like there were 1,000 NPCs that I was fighting in a war like yesterday. It was wild. And then at the same time, when you're walking through the map, it's kind of like an RTS kind of where
Okay.
you're moving around and other characters are moving and you're avoiding them or chasing them and stuff like that.
You are into the strategy games, huh? I feel like every time we talk
Yeah.
about games, strategy game comes up. I was just reading that there's a new update coming to Solaris, and I thought about we had a conversation about that. I think.
Yeah, this one's kind of minor, the Stellaris one. It's
Yeah.
just like a story pack
Okay.
for when you find. Have you ever played it or no? We just talk about it, right?
Yeah, I've played
You
it.
have.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember. When you find the like pre faster than light civilizations, it's kind of there's some origins around that now, and
Builds on
it's
that, okay.
building that up a little bit, but not much.
We haven't ever talked about. I'm still waiting for us to play a strategy game, whether it's like Civ
Yes.
or whatever it is. What is it? EU4. Good lord. Have you heard of Falling Frontier?
I have, and so have you heard of Farthest Frontier?
No, I have not.
That's like a city builder RTS kind of game that
Mhm.
came out a few months ago to early access. And I was like, guys, I'm going to play Falling Frontier today. It's so exciting. And everyone in my chat was like, no way, really? They were so hyped for it.
Like
they
early
thought
access,
yeah, how did you get that? And it turns out it was Farthest Frontier. And they were like, what the hell, man? But
Did
that
you go
game was
through
really
with
good
it?
too.
Did you follow through and play?
Oh yeah, there was.
Okay, good,
I mean,
good.
I didn't know. I knew I was interested in Farthest Frontier based on the description of it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know much about Fall. You're going to be my guide through Falling Frontier because I don't
Cool.
know much about it, but I know people are mega excited about it.
It's looking really good,
It's
man.
a space RTS.
Yeah,
Is that what
it's
it
a
is?
space
Okay.
RTS. Oh gosh, I don't know how to describe exactly what it focuses on, but I would say it really channels kind of like the vibe you get from The Expanse. Everything feels super tactile. All the different things that are on the map feel like they matter. So it's kind of like a 3D map. You can fire projectiles. They can get blocked by asteroids. You can like blow up ships and scavenge the escape pods if you're evil. Like it's very I guess
A lot of depth
I mean
to
I feel
it?
like I feel like Star Citizen's kind of ruined this word for me, but it's just high fidelity. It seems it's like
Okay.
an immersive RTS. I'm excited for it, and it's like one guy, and he's just been
The one guy
toiling
games are
away.
always the best.
Yeah. Thank you, One Person Games. You guys.
Manor Lords.
Yeah.
Too is another like city builder RTS game, and they did an early access like demo on Steam maybe 5 months ago or
Yeah.
something like that.
Remember
And it was
everybody was playing that.
incredible. Yeah.
Wasn't
was
there
amazing.
Gosh, we're getting really off topic, but wasn't
We
there
are.
a strategy game like Ashes of something Ashes that you were talking about, kind of alongside Star
Ashes of
Citizen?
Creation was an MMO.
Oh, it's MMO. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting them mixed
Yeah.
up then. All the medieval time stuff. Anyways, back to
Yeah.
space things. Star Citizen. So it's been about a month since we checked in on 318, and I know you just kind of mentioned that you were really excited for it, and like you're not diving too deep into it, so you avoid burnout. But like, are you still feeling the same way you felt when we talked about it last? Have you gotten more excited, less excited? Things clarified?
I think I feel the same. Like again, all these features are really cool. And I guess since last time we talked, I think the second Robert's letter came out. So it's kind of
Yeah.
hard, like that immediately will dampen any excitement that you had for this year. Is kind of like, okay, it's another year of like really focusing on tech and how much are they going to focus on features.
Mhm.
And I think we'll get into that a little bit because I think the monthly report helps clarify those feelings of like this has the opportunity to still be a fun year. It's just not the year where Star Citizen becomes Star Citizen, you know?
Yeah.
And that's okay. It could still be fun. But
That's
still excited.
That's how I felt about last year. Like I was really excited for last year. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I made a video for supporters that was talking about how they were kind of doing gameplay oriented stuff last year, and it wasn't as much as I was hoping. I was hoping maybe we would see the cargo refactor earlier. We might get to see hacking, but it still was a dramatic shift towards like doing things in game versus the years prior. And I feels kind of like the same type of thing this year. Like you're saying, it's not going to be a shift towards the ultimate goal of Star Citizen with server meshing and all that stuff. Maybe that'll happen. I don't think we're all really expecting it to. But it's definitely some good stuff that's still coming. And let's I guess jump into the monthly report. Really, what is like the overall vibe you were getting from it?
Well, I mean, the meat of it was what we did at the end of last year, what we did 2 months ago.
Mhm.
But the things that I hone in on are, we don't have the cards for 319. We don't know what
Yeah.
this is going to look like, right? And so I honed in on, what are the things you're working on now? What are the things that you're working on that we don't have? And there were quite a few things that were just right up my alley. And it was, I mean, do you want me to jump into some of the things now?
Let's start with mining.
Yeah. I mean, not only are there the potential for a complete, like, if mining is tier 0 now, you can apply whatever tier number you want to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the next level. They're taking it to the level that I think it needs to be ready for the economy to exist and drive your action to mine. Is the I explained this this morning on my stream, where they seem to take a route of, if you look at the Grey Cat Rock, they made that vehicle and then immediately decided, okay, we know we want to make a ground vehicle, but now we need to make the material that it mines.
Mm-hmm.
And like, in real life, that's not how it works. In real life, these vehicles come about because of the difficulty to extract minerals from the earth. They were already there, right?
Yeah.
And it's now they're focusing on the distribution of minerals, what's inside them, how maybe some different characteristics to them. There's no details in the monthly report, but the details are, it's not just making the mole better for multi-crew by changing the mole. It seems to be by changing the material to fit the world and what they want to do. It seems to be material first,
Mm-hmm.
and vehicle second, which is, even though they wrote the changes to the vehicles first, I think the changes to the minerals are the more interesting thing. But we again, no details on it, but exciting.
No details, yeah, is unfortunate, but it does sound like it's a lot bigger than it sounded like 5 months ago. Maybe when they mentioned it on the monthly report, they said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna change the mole to be better than bringing multiple prospectors." But now you think this is like the next step.
I have a little more context to it. I was really, really lucky. I'd never seen this guy on anybody else's channel, but you know the guy who, he's the German guy who talked about the salvage mechanics, with not Dan Truffin, but the other guy at like CitizenCon, and he's been like very forward facing with gameplay stuff from the EU team. I can't remember his name, and I apologize so much, because
face.
If you saw him, you would know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll DM you a picture of him or whatever. He just happened to be in my stream when 318 went live, or went into the PTU initially. And I just was like, listen, I'm jumping on this opportunity. I'm not trying to put pressure on you. Tell me why mining is the way it is now, because I don't understand it. I want to give feedback the right way. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to do your job. That's not the way to do it. It's, if I was to think how the mole would work versus the prospector, it would be, the mole would have more powerful lasers, and the maybe rocks that you would mine with a prospector, you can't mine with a mole because the lasers are too powerful, and then vice versa, right? And the rocks, why aren't they really big? And why can't we fill the mole with them? And I would just look at it that way, and I would love to hear your thought process on why you went the way that you guys have. And he just goes, "You'll love what we do in the next update."
Ooh.
So and that was public and everything. It was like on my stream, so you could say it. And I was like, okay. And that's really all I needed. So it was just like, you'll really like what we do at the next update. So it seems to be focused on,
That's exciting.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I'm not gonna let myself get too excited, because my mind
Same.
starts to race, but we've had mining for so long. I know you, of all people, are very adamant about this. We've just had mining for so long, and we see that salvage is about to get its next update before mining might. So it's nice to hear that something might be going on with mining. And they also talked about missions, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, we've been asking for that.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap.
And then I mean then, try not to get excited with that, right? Like I think it's impossible. Because then it's like, oh, reputation. What do you do with reputation for mining missions? Are you going to hide some? You just did all this work to mining lasers. Are you making new ones? Will they be hidden behind reputation? Are you, and it's just like, I don't think that's going to be what happens initially. I think it's just going to be,
It's
oh,
a
you
step in
sell
that.
you sell me more rocks and I give you more money or whatever, the classic. But the opportunity is there, and that's Star Citizen in a nutshell, right? It's just filled with potential. It's just a matter of somebody being able
Yeah.
to find the time and then prioritize that work.
I mean, every profession they can get into the reputation system is another profession you can tell a newcomer, hey, do this and you can progress. Like, you're not
Yeah.
just banging your head against something and earning money for God knows what. You can actually get some tangible sign of doing better at that. So I like that they're at least linking it into reputation.
Well, I don't know. They didn't say anything in the monthly report about that. I'm just saying, like, that's where my mind goes. So they
Right.
just said missions.
Well,
That's
yeah,
it.
okay. I will
Yeah.
say I hope then, for everybody
Yeah,
listening, this was
exactly.
not confirmed here. We hope
No.
that
Yeah.
reputation will be included. But I assume
You would
also
think.
with missions that, yeah, they would have to have some sort of reputation reward.
Like at this point, why make new missions if you're not going to tie reputation? Like, just what? I don't see how that wouldn't be like an initiative at the place.
Yeah.
We now have reputation. When you make a mission, use it. So I
Yeah.
hope that's the case. So we'll see.
Otherwise, missions don't matter. They really
Exactly.
don't.
They
It's
really
just money. It's just
Yeah.
money.
Money doesn't matter in the game. We all know that, and it's going to be that way for a while. So how do you gamify something that isn't quite a game yet? And I think it's like these little reputation grinds. The wipes, people might not like them, but that helps too. Is like, oh, I get to start again. And some people hate that. I love it. But yeah, that's how I look at it.
Missions also will give us a formal way to share mining stuff, right? Because like right now you can tell someone, hey, there's something you can go mine it for me and sell it. But now you can get a mining contract and then share it with a friend, and they could like do half the work for you and still it's official.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that at all. It could be an opportunity to I mean, what does a mining mission look like? Is it going to tell you where the ore is? Right? Or is it
Yeah.
just go and collect something?
Yeah.
It should be really interesting. I don't know.
Now on my wish list, I want them to combine the mining investigation and bounty hunting missions. So I go to a mining claim and I find that somebody has been murdered there, and I have to track down their killer. I
Yep.
want all kinds of crazy storylines, please, CIG.
That would be hilarious. A soft death prospector with a guy hanging out of it.
Just everything all in one place.
What happened here?
Let's see. So besides the mining missions, they talked about salvage missions too, I think.
Yes, they were. So mining and salvage were in the same sentence, like mining / salvage missions. It was like, whoa, nice.
We saw last year that they were doing like they kind of teased us with some reputations. They showed a few different things like hired muscle and kidnapping and like that kind of stuff. Do you think we'll see any of those other things this year? Do you think that's still just?
I don't think so. I really, on the less positive side, I do still really think that this year is going to be very much like last year in the sense of it's going to be, I feel like we're going to play 318 the entire year. Right. And like a slightly different version of 318. And I'm okay with that. But what I think that they are going to do is, instead of making the quote unquote mistake in their mind of, because the Roberts letter, they said, oh, 317.2 could have been called 318. It's like, no, it couldn't have. Come on. But they will call it that. I think maybe, but
I think it could have, just because I looked back and it had more
does have
content than
features.
316. So like
it does.
That's why the numbers don't matter.
Yeah.
I'm so done thinking about the numbers.
It only matters for their like marketing of it.
Right.
Like new release, new update, and so they'll do that. But I think essentially we'll be playing 318 because I
Well,
don't
what
think
would
the
it take?
numbers really go up.
What would it
The
take
next
for
step
you to
is the
feel
next
like
step
we're
is
not
meshing.
okay? So
You know, like
let's
it's
say
what
they
you're
got
the
in.
major feature.
Let's say
Major
they got
feature you're working
in
on.
bounty hunting V2, resource management, hacking, and the flight model changes all this year. Would you feel like that's worthy of another update
That's
past 318?
I mean, that's kind of where I'm getting at is I think the numbers don't matter and it just comes down to was it more fun and are they progressing towards the inevitability of what we all backed for,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I think 37 or 2022 wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. It just wasn't what we wanted it to be. It wasn't
Yeah.
as exciting as they laid it out, how the year was going to end up being. So it just feels worse. And in the end, we did get 318 to a wave 1 PTU at the end of the year. If we didn't get that, I'm sorry, but I'm not looking at 317.2 and going, wow, 100 players and a few other features are really like that wasn't game changing for me personally, but
Mm-hmm.
getting the 318 features in at the end was like, all right, you guys did it. Cool. It still needs a lot of cleaning up to do, but there was
Yeah.
318 filled a lot. 317.2, there was more stuff, but maybe it was just stuff I was a little less interested in, perhaps, is why I feel that way. Because those features were nothing to sneeze at, obviously. It's just
Yeah. There's you know what? Um I would have hoped to see AI navigation on planets expand more from what they put in 317.2. And I think that's probably something we would have seen if 318 wasn't such a I won't say it on the podcast because I don't want to market it explicit, but 318 was a jerk and slowed things down. And
yeah.
I feel like I would have liked to see the planetary AI in more areas, more of the derelicts, more outside maybe some of the security bunkers and stuff like that, which was a bummer. But yeah, 317.2 wasn't particularly light in that kind of stuff.
No. Like if you look at, oh, they added nav mesh to the game. Yeah, they did. That's a big deal. That's huge for the future of the game. But
Right.
in the instances in which you saw it, it wasn't that
Mhm.
big of a deal. Right. So that's why I'm like, yeah, that's a 317.2 and not a 318. I what I would love, and this would be my dream, and it's never gonna happen, would be that each patch takes the time that it takes, and the next, for 318 could have been the cargo patch, right?
Mhm.
And it was where you had cargo refactor, cargo missions, the freight elevators, which by the way, there's a sneak peek in the monthly report of if you guys haven't seen it. I missed it when I looked. Um, but you could barely see them, but they're there. And that's how I would love to see it is like focused patches. Like this is the
Yeah.
cargo update. Everything changes
Yes.
with this.
Yo, honestly, I kind of was hoping 3.15 was a sign of
The
that.
start
Like
of that.
yeah, and I was fine with 316 not following the pattern because it was kind of just following up. But then I hope 317 would continue it, and it didn't really. So I
Yeah.
I fully agree. I hope that we can start to see patches in Star Citizen that feel like they're themed, kind of, and
Yep.
you can expect there to be like more than one feature supporting that thing. And it sounds like whatever feature the cargo refactor is will probably be that. I'm guessing we'll get vehicle tractor beams in that patch as well, freight
Mhm.
elevators, timers, manual loading and unloading. So that might feel like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I don't know. The one thing that they didn't do in the monthly report is like this is work is for the 319 patch.
Hmm.
It's just things that this is what we were working on. So it's hard to tell
Yeah.
when, but the I guess maybe looking at the progress tracker might help with that. I don't look at the progress tracker because I don't think it helps with those kind of things. But the to go on one of the points that you made and to bring it back to the monthly report a little bit more is I think why I'm more positive and more excited about this year than I have been in a while is about 315. Remember 315 was like, man, this is really exciting. We are delivering all these features. Yeah, they're not perfect by any means, but next patch they'll work on them, right? I mean, we just got our move all button now.
Yeah.
Very happy to have it. But that's kind of been the timeline of things. And what I'm reading with the monthly report is the hopes that we had with 315 seem to maybe be happening finally with 318. So 318 cargo refactor comes in, they're not leaving it here. They're going to continue working on it. The freight elevators, the timers, the this, the that, and they're not done. And that probably doesn't just include adding more features, but it probably does include maybe tying up some of the loose ends of the ones that they just added in 318 as well. And I look at that and have my fingers crossed. I'll believe it when I see it, but
Yeah.
it definitely is a positive outlook on this coming year in terms of not feeling like last year, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Going, you talk about cargo hauling. I'd like to tie that to mining, like we were talking about before, and kind of
yeah.
the changes they were doing in terms of resources. Do you think that this year, judging by the mining changes they're making, and the fact that like this will be a cargo focused year, we know the cargo refactor and loading and all this stuff is likely coming. It's never a guarantee, but we know there's a good chance of it. Do you think that they might take a chance or take a second to like look back at all the relative pricing of materials and commodities and maybe consider mixing it up so we can have some fun trading? Do you have any
Does that
inkling of a
equal
sign
fun?
of that? Dude, if I can take
So
boxes somewhere because I know that that somewhere accepts those boxes that somebody else doesn't know, and like it
yeah,
changes based on time, that's fun. I feel like
I
that
agree.
is all I need.
So I say that exact statement that you just made all the time, but then once you get it, you need more. That's
Oh,
how
well, of
I was
course.
like, man, right? I said that about 315. All I need is to be able to loot these guys, like kill a player, loot them. This is amazing. And then I go kill them, and then I loot them, and none of the stuff matters that I looted.
Yeah. You're like,
So
this
I'm
is the
like,
same
oh,
loot as
this
last
sucks.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, this is crap. So yes and no, but I think that that's a big piece of it. Now, another thing, I know you said you were really busy and you may not have caught this one.
I probably didn't.
The not the patch that's on the PTU now, but the one that was previously or something in the monthly report. I can't remember now where it was. I'm
Mhm.
sure somebody will help us with this. Is the journal entries for the cargo stuff. Remember those that they just
Yeah.
like never did anything with
Yeah.
except for one whenever we can move the visual audio equipment. That's the only time it's ever really
The
mattered.
commodity alerts that pop up. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're doing some change with like labeling them different. Like so it's easier to read in the journal. And I was like, "Oh, okay, so you're looking at this.
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do? Are you doing something? What are you
It's
doing with
yeah,
it? Why are
something's
you?"
going on. Yeah.
So yes, I think something's gonna happen. Is it gonna happen to the extent of like Tony Z waking up from his cryo sleep and doing anything? Related to that stuff, I don't think so. I think Tony's been doing a lot, but it's all been dynamic mission stuff, and it hasn't been this economy thing that we probably thought we would have had by now based on a lot of the conversations in the past.
Mm.
Um, but this is certainly something to keep your eye on. Is like, somebody's looking at these journal entries. I wonder if they'll do something about it. So
I
maybe
certainly hope so. And
same.
my statement before about not being able to do anything in cargo hauling obviously is an exaggeration. You can ship some stuff, but like it's going to be really nice when they make it so that like going to Hurston to buy some materials isn't going to get you the same results as when somebody else went a week ago, and you have
Yeah,
the opportunity to take that to Port Olisar, whereas they had to go all the way to, I don't know, Microtech. It's just
yeah.
that is such a big part, I think, of what interests me in a game like this, and
These
I can't wait to see it.
these third-party websites that share all the commodity information,
Mhm.
who I never would I thought they would have had to change what they were doing. Maybe CIG was gonna put out an API, something like that, and they're still relevant today. I would have never thought in 2023 we would still have cargo hauling exactly the same
Yeah,
as we did before from a the economic standpoint of it. It's surprising.
cargo
You
hauling is
cargo
kind of
commodity screens though, kinda good.
cargo hauling is the star map of game loops in Star Citizen. They dropped it in. It was okay for the time, but it's really been needing an update, and I'm excited to
Yeah.
hear that at least the commodity stuff is going on. Now you mentioned Tony. and dynamic missions. And while I was skimming through the monthly report, I did see something about Sandbox missions that you don't sign up for, but that it can still happen to you. Did you see that?
Yeah, and that was on the roadmap a while ago, and it fell off.
Was that
So I don't know when it was planned for, but it might be one of the 319 cards that eventually show up, given how early. I think that might have been like a 317 thing that just never happened.
are you talking about the thing that they said was going to introduce probability volumes?
No, because they kind of didn't they introduce probability, but I think they sort of loosely introduced them more recently, right? With interdictions, I think, and I sort of with Ninetales Lockdown,
I
but
don't know, but I know that they had an item on I think it was on the roadmap for probably 316. Was that 316? Yeah, because it was it was towards the end of 2021. I think I saw it on there, and that was they were
Mhm.
talking about like introducing probability volumes, something about missions. I can't remember what they called them, something missions. But this,
We would get
anyways.
them like while we were in Quantum randomly.
Okay,
I think was like the description, maybe. I can't
yeah,
remember
yeah.
either. There's so
So
much
this is,
information with Star Citizen. Some just leaks out of your ears,
yep, it's gross. But this is kind of the same sort of thing. How do you feel about like? I guess this is a popular thing in games. You see this in a game like Red Dead Redemption, where like somebody will run up to you and say something, and you can go off with them and do that mission or not. How do you feel about that kind of thing coming to Star Citizen?
I mean, obviously that would be fantastic. For me, it sort of goes back to something where I don't get too excited about that stuff because, like we said earlier, for the most part, missions don't matter, right? It's just your money going up, and unless they really add that depth to it, which I'm not so sure that at least I don't believe, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like we're probably a little bit of a ways away from really feeling that depth with the missions that we would want.
I don't
So
know.
I look at it and it doesn't excite me very much. Does it excite you?
Um, not a not a not a crazy
Have
amount. Just
have they
because,
really given us a mission where it's Red Dead Redemption, where it's like, man, there's a storyline here, it's voice acted, it feels immersive. I'm just like reading a Moby description 99% of the time. So
yeah,
I really haven't been drawn to any missions that have been made too much at this point. Maybe the Clovis one is the
yeah.
closest I've been.
So I was gonna say Clovis and Twitch, Pacheco. I think
Twitch,
both of
yeah.
their missions are decent. And then there was
Miles Eckert.
Tessa Bannister, way
Oh
back in
yeah.
the day. Her missions were pretty good, even though she's just a voice over the radio.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I haven't been that narratively convinced by the missions, and I've been really kind of mentioning that I want to see the narrative team get more involved. And it sounds like from recent stuff,
Oh
I think they
yeah.
put out an update saying that they were going to
Yeah.
stop doing their weekly stuff and start moving more of that into the game. So I'm kind of like, okay, you guys you're looking into it. The investigation missions are probably going to be their first try at that. So we'll see how those go.
Yeah. All signs like point in the right direction for, I guess, people like me who've been sitting here yelling at clouds for more gameplay and more focus on the game.
Mhm.
We all know that the game is not Star Citizen right now. The game is Squadron 42, but at the same time,
I
I'll
thought the
take
game
that
was
over.
I thought the game was Theaters of War.
Well, yeah, it was, and then I just call Sean Tracy the Theaters of War guy now. So anytime he comes on camera, I'm like, oh, it's the Theaters of War guy. Nice.
Well, I feel like he didn't end up showing up as much after that
I
all
wouldn't.
happened. That's yeah. I mean, I would want to just work, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't want any of the BS from the community when it comes to that. And I find it to be funny. I think Theaters of War would have been a great thing to play while you waited for Star Citizen, and I'm glad they're like, yeah, no, we're gonna focus on making it. So yeah, but there's a lot of Arena Commander updates that are happening too. So
Oh
who
yeah,
knows?
so that's something else that's been in the monthly reports. And
Yeah.
Astropub he's just on the pod a lot. He has his own shows, but I've talked to him personally and heard him say multiple times that the Arena Commander team is doing big things. They've got big updates coming, and he does believe that well, okay. He says he doesn't believe it, but he's willing to put it out there that Theaters of War could be a thing this year, just based on how the Arena Commander team has been acting.
No chance.
But well, you know, it's
Dude,
always
that would
fun
be
to
a fun bet. That would be a fun bet. Like the sad thing is that CitizenCon doesn't happen at the end of the year,
Mhm.
because I would totally make a stupid bet with him, like dress up as something dumb at CitizenCon kind of thing if whoever's wrong. And yeah, I would say no chance.
That would be the craziest surprise. I would,
I
I would,
really
I
would.
would honestly take my hat off to CIG if they did that. Not obviously they're super late, so not as a like you guys are amazing kind of thing, but just
I
as
don't
like
even know if
I
I
did not
want it.
expect this kind of thing.
At this point, I don't even know if I want it. I don't.
I certainly want
It's
it less than I did.
yeah.
I saw more reason for it back then. At this point, I'm like, you know what? We're this far into the alpha. Just keep testing all of that stuff in the PU. Just like let us
Think
die.
about yeah, I mean, just think about what we were playing in 2019 versus what we have now. And it's not a situation where the listen, the game's not done, it's not even close, but there's just a lot more to do now. And like we talked earlier about patches success are determined on how long it takes for you to get bored. Well, it takes a lot longer to get bored now,
Yeah,
especially after 318 for me personally. It takes a lot longer to get bored.
yeah,
So I don't need these other electronic access games that much. I do need racing in Arena Commander though. That's my big exciting thing from them, because
yeah.
have you tried racing at these racetracks,
I
man? I
haven't.
can't stand dying. It's so annoying because you die and you gotta come back. It takes forever.
Oh
Arena
yeah.
Commander, you just all right. Next, let's go again, and you can just improve and get better at these tracks, and then bring it into live. So it's just such a great idea for a proving ground for me. I'm gonna spend a lot of time in Arena Commander. That was a 319 card before they removed 319,
Mm.
as far as I
How
know.
how
They
does
mentioned it as
the
a 319 feature.
okay? How's the racing been feeling for you?
I haven't done it in a while since like the 318 first dropped to wave 1.
Hmm.
So I don't know how it's been like improving. It's like one of those things that I'm actively avoiding
Yeah,
because I know that I'm going to spend a lot of time with it, and I'd rather do it on it. I've noticed some issues with the servers with it, not recognizing you went through a gate, things like that. So I'm kind of chilling. Um, it is super hard. The people who are really good at racing make it look so easy. They are some of the most talented people I've ever seen in my life.
it is scary how
And
fast they go around some
yeah,
turns. I'm like, I
yeah,
didn't know the spaceships could fly like that in
no,
atmosphere.
I don't know what they do and how they do it. And it just looks like they're just, it's so peaceful the way they
Just
fly.
cruising.
And
Yeah,
my stick's ripping out, falling
dude.
off my desk and stuff.
Oh man, I feel like a freaking helicopter with like rotors made out of salami sometimes. Like I'm just literally I press in a direction and I don't go. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, 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 no. I want to go around the turn. Okay, I blew up. No more racing. It's
yeah,
it's crazy. The control that they have is really cool. And that's one of the things like I suck at combat and I suck at atmospheric flight. Honestly, I suck at most of the game. But those are like two of the things
same.
that I really want to work on. So I'm happy that you can go in and like make money doing it and kind of get in there with some actual gameplay.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even just making money, is you know what your best time was. It's on the screen, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's like you can compete against someone, and that someone can be yourself. It could be a leaderboard. Uh, it's just
that is
you
cool.
don't
Yeah.
have much competition in SC right now. I talk a lot about that with my friends in the PvP community, especially when they get um like argumentative with each other, and I'm like, guys, like none of this stuff matters right now. Like you're not even competing over anything. You can't even tell who wins. My favorite thing about these guys is every time they argue with each other, they both think they won, because there's no deciding factor of who has taken control of the area necessarily. Jumptown's a good example of like where you can see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's how I look at Star Citizen a lot. Is there's I want to have that experience of winning and losing.
Hmm.
Uh, but it doesn't have to be like hyper competitive either. It's just like, yeah, I was successful and I've uh, I came across this struggle and I got past it, you know, and that's how I look at it. And with racing, that struggle is just beating your next time. It's more simple than that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a very straightforward style of competition, and I'm
Hmm.
glad they've got it in there. It's good that it's in there because, like, it's such an obvious thing that
Yeah.
needs to be included and just built on. So it's cool. Speaking of racing, though,
All
another
right.
thing I was able to skim in that monthly report, it's very exciting in my opinion, are the atmospheric flight changes. They talked about like thrusters and control surfaces. You get a chance to go over that part?
I actually, so I went over it after you made note of it. I didn't quite catch it the first time I looked. Uh, yeah, that's pretty crazy. But again, I think that's I concern myself with that was in the squadron one, right? So that
No,
as far as I'm,
that was in the Star Citizen one, I believe. I'm pretty sure
oh,
that was in
okay,
the, I think of the Squadron one had the quantum travel update, but I'm
okay,
pretty sure. Gosh, you know what? I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. That might be a Squadron thing. In that case,
someone will correct us.
that would be speaking further out, obviously in a timeline. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that. It's hard to tell the way they communicate with stuff between the two things. But I really am for the most part sticking to anything from the vehicle feature team or the vehicle experience team, whatever they morphed into each other. I don't know which name stuck. I can't remember,
Hmm.
but their stuff they seem entirely focused on Squadron. And we talked briefly before the podcast about a 318 PTUY feature that is really interesting from many perspectives. And the one is like, oh, they're band-aiding the game right now because they don't think the stuff they're working on for Squadron's going to be in the PU for a while.
Right.
So I look at that and I go, okay, they're working on it. That's cool. But I don't want to get excited about their stuff because I just don't see it happening soon.
Sure. Sure. From a perspective of just analyzing the feature,
Hmm.
I think this is going to be one of those features that catches people off guard. We've all been kind of talking about it for a while. We know that they want to
Yep.
make atmospheric flight a little more sim-like.
Years.
Do you think, though, do you think this is far enough? Did you expect them to still do this? The whole idea, actually, for anybody who hasn't read the monthly report, because I realize we're talking about this without saying what it is, they talked about both thrusters on the ship, I believe.
Stabilizing you.
Yeah, stabilizing you during flight, but also when your ship is going fast enough, if it has aerodynamic control surfaces, the thrusters will actually shut off automatically so that you can fly only based on aerodynamics. And apparently it's giving them much better results. And I think they said they were testing it in Squadron. And they said that in the atmospheric segments of Squadron 42, it was making things a lot more fun. So it's, and they also talked about stalling. I think this was what was in
Yep.
the Star Citizen one, the ability to stall in your ship, how your ship can have anti-stall measures. So like they're getting a lot more into that kind of atmospheric flight stuff. Do you think it's far enough?
Like, what do you mean by far enough? Is it a sim enough
Yeah,
or I almost think it's for me personally kind of too far.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Anytime I've tried to like jump in and really dive into the mechanics of like PvP and ship flying and combat and stuff like that, I've really enjoyed it. But it's a lot. You got pedals, you got sticks, you got this, you got that, and there's like a million different things you got to think of, and they're adding on top of it. I just worry for myself that it might be a little bit too much. I'm older. I'm not like
old man.
one of these young. Yeah, I'm an old man, so all this stuff is starting to get to be a little too much for me personally. I didn't buy. I know that they labeled it as a space sim when they first launched the game, but nothing they really shared was very um, flight sim esque from playing Arena Commander for the first times and things like that. It just never gave me the vibes that that's what it was going to be, and them shifting in that direction of something I've never played before. I've never played a flight sim. I don't know much about that stuff and how complicated it is. So
Hmm.
for me, I lean on the sort of okay with what we have now. I just like the old way where my M50 and racing was like super snappy, and there was obviously like problems with that, and they made their
Yeah,
changes.
nice.
But on the sim side of things, I don't know. For me,
I think it'll be
what
interesting. I like.
you a flight simmer?
No, I've never played
Okay.
a flight sim. This is the first one. I've never owned a joystick. I've never like flight sim, space sim, MMO. All three of those genres are like almost they're pretty far away from my norm. So this is all
Hmm.
fairly new to me. Which is why I don't know what's good and what's not. I just know what excites me, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. But I think there are two things I'd like to see from this. I want them both to, and obviously they're going to focus on making sure it's easy enough with mouse and keyboard. That's like really important because most people won't be playing with sticks and pedals and stuff.
Yeah.
And then just make sure that people can still enjoy the game, not getting deep into it, like you said. So like, if
Yeah.
somebody doesn't
Easy
want
to
to
get
manage their
into.
heat, they can still fly. They'll just have some like extra wear from that heat. It's not like it'll
Yeah.
crash them down to the ground and ruin their whole game session.
The current racing is probably a decent example. They've now made it quite easy to get into, but you look at the people who've mastered it, and you're like, no shot, no shot. I will ever be as good at that guy as that guy.
Hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing. And I'm worried when it comes to general flight, combat, all those things in the future. It's we're going back to a lot of the ways it used to be, which was the skill gap was just insanely massive, insane, and adding all these things on top of it, I think they're widening that. They really shortened the skill gap more recently with some you know little changes to for joysticks to have better aim and things like that.
Hmm.
And now I think it's kind of going the other way again. And I
Well,
don't know
then,
how good of a thing that is. I think more people are into PvP now than ever because it's easier to get into now than ever.
true. There's also a lot more attention around it. I think a lot more streamers are doing it, so that kind of bounces
Yeah.
off people, and then YouTube videos that are gameplay related are
Oh
starting
yeah.
to actually be interesting. That's huge. Like the recent kind of boost in gameplay videos actually being good with Star Citizen instead of just talking videos.
Yep.
Um,
That's what we talked about before this podcast. I can't stand the talking video. I can't do it anymore. I love it. I love it. At the same time, I got into this, and what I loved was gameplay stuff, like doing gameplay content.
mhm.
And yeah, I'm over the talking head stuff. Like this podcast, like back and forth with somebody, is totally different than the I get on screen and I share my opinions about the game, and it has nothing to do with it, like the
Yeah.
gameplay at,
And
at
then you
that
get
moment.
and then you get yelled at for your opinions instead of just going and
Well,
playing the game and having fun.
yeah, I mean that's like that shit just goes right off my shoulder now. I
Sure.
don't really, but the yeah, it's just from like a personal feelings of like I never set out to do this, and it just kind of happened.
Hmm. Well, getting back to the aiming we were talking about, because before I
Yep.
forget, you mentioned aiming, um, and that the skill gap might be increasing with some of the things that they're doing.
Yeah.
But they also mentioned some changes to aiming on the monthly report as well, right? So maybe they're also fixing in some aiming stuff. We still don't exactly know how much AI blades might be able to help a player, who sucks at combat.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of questions. It's always questions up in the air.
Yep. It's they're so vague because it's all work in progress and it sucks. I mean, how many times the one thing just talking about AI blades for 2 seconds, the only thing that I want AI blades for is when I'm outside of my ship, man, if my ship has turrets, I would love for it to shoot at somebody who shot at me or is red or whatever, to just like defend itself a little bit, because every single time I get out of my ship and somebody comes near the location I'm at, why do they blow my ship up every single time? And then you're just left shipless. I can't stand that. It drives me insane.
Yeah, that is.
Like AI blades for the win there, hopefully.
We're all ruthless still in this in
It
this
really
game.
is.
I was playing the game the other day, and an AI dropship came in. I was at a ruin, and an AI dropship came in to drop off some folks, and I was panicking. I was like, oh crap, I better run away. So I start running, and they start shooting my ship.
Yep.
Stupid assholes.
Even the
And
AI does it.
yeah, and and I'm like running back to the ship. I'm like, please no, please don't. And the ship, the AI ship, as I'm running, is like slowly kind of glitching out. It's like turning in atmosphere at a really slow rate, like it's floating in water. So it's clearly glitched. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I keep running to the ship, and then out of nowhere, the ship still explodes. I'm like these people, I hate these. And then they kept shooting off into the distance, and then my ship had its soft death explosion. It was just
Yeah.
like the double hit, and I'm stranded, just like you
Yep.
said.
I'm always stranded, always, and that's not a good thing.
Have you
That
ever
is like one of
gotten?
my biggest gripes.
Do people come and pick you up? I actually got a beacon to
Yeah,
work, and somebody picked me up, and it was super smooth.
you got to. Oh, you got a beacon to work. The only
Yeah,
time I've had an experience where it's worked was like, hey, I'm watching your stream, and I will positively stream snipe you and come and pick you up. You know what
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
Like the good kind of stream snipe. The that's like I wish there were, and I know I don't think this should be a priority today or anything. I think that there's way more important priorities than that.
Hmm.
But I really hope that at some point, when it makes sense to prioritize it, that there's an opportunity to hide your ship, protect your ship, place a place down a bubble, an extra shield around it. Turrets that you could place around it. So if anybody comes around, they're toast kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But for
Some
now,
kind of
it's I will remain stranded 99% of the time.
that's fair. Emergent gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, let's see. I want to go back to missions real quick.
Okay.
The the main thing that you tell somebody to do right now, and like they jump in a game and they're like, I want to do something, I want to make money. You be like, go into the missions, check out what they've got there. And as it is right now, it's labeled general and personal. And like we
Mhm.
all have a pretty good idea of what's in there, what's to choose from. Compared to say other MMOs you've played, or just other games that have this sort of mission structure, how do you feel about what Star Citizen is doing with the missions? And you see any places you might think they could improve them? Not the missions themselves, like how they
The
are
way they
organized and
the way they
yeah,
communicate them.
yeah,
Um, I think the unlawful missions being in your personal makes sense because it is how you're supposed to look at it is it's your personal email.
right,
But if if that's the case, then the mission board should be the mission board. The public, like lawful mission board should be a
hmm,
mission board. And then your personal, hey, I'm reaching out to you, hush hush,
right,
uh, should be your personal thing. And not all those missions are hush hush. And that's the kind of idea behind it being called personal.
hmm,
Some of those are for regular mission givers that are positive and doing good things, or you're not going to get a crime stat for, and some of them aren't. Um, I don't necessarily think that there should be a criminal mission board where you're like, oh, this is where the unlawful stuff is,
right.
but ways to, I don't know. I think one of the, I don't know with that one. It's not easy. I don't think. I like the idea of when they would reach out to you, but they're reaching out to you via your personal email, essentially, because the mission comes in that tab. But I think it should be communicated that way. And that goes into new mobiGlass and an opportunity there, which to be honest, in the Squadron 42 update and when they showed that stuff, I didn't see a big change on that, in terms of these people are contacting me personally and this is a mission board. I didn't see a huge differentiation there. There may have been, but I don't remember it. And
I
that's
I
just how I
just
look at it.
remember seeing the mission like a contract manager and just thinking this. I don't know if it says that specific info, but I did feel like it gave me a lot more info. Like
Okay.
it looked like they had more context to the missions. And
Because
maybe
like new
maybe
players, man, they got to be
yeah.
lost.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. They need a really good way to make sure you know that what you're doing is illegal. And like if you read the description, yeah, that's a thing, but a lot of games don't require you to do that. A lot of games are just like, hey, this is a bad mission. And Star
Yeah.
Citizen either needs to make it clear that they're bad missions or teach players how to recognize them.
Yeah, like you're not just gonna like open your mobiGlas and there's gonna be like red missions like these are illegal. I think Elite Dangerous does that, where Elite's like more comfortable of just saying like these are unlawful.
Mhm.
And Star Citizen really wants it to feel real, and I think that's one of the reasons why we buy into the game. So we do want it to remain immersive, right? We don't want it to be there's a skull and crossbones next to this mission, be careful. But I think there's opportunities to make that, and I think those opportunities come with voice acting,
Mhm.
and performance capture first and foremost. Like every unlawful mission does come for the most part from a mission giver, right? It's labeled in the email that you get from them that it's from Rudo, it's from these people, and I just think that they need to, when the time is right, prioritize that and make it really clear what you're getting into and who you're getting into bed with, right?
Yeah, I can't wait till they return to the mission givers. I was very
That's
excited for them
crazy.
when they were focusing on them. I hope
Remember
after
those
server
days?
meshing, yeah, man, things were
Where's
looking
Eddie
good.
Parr, guys?
Oh gosh,
I don't think we needed Eddie Parr because every other mission giver was so broken, and I'm
yeah,
glad that they went,
they were
it's
like, this
not the
isn't
right
working.
time for this.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a good call.
but
And now they're talking about the law office, like they talked about the advocacy offices on one of
yeah,
the planets, and that's probably where they're going to put those mission givers. So maybe
they
they're
better
starting to think
not
about it.
cargo deck me. Don't cargo deck us. Don't do it.
Oh my
Cargo
gosh,
decks
no,
are
even
where
worse.
you go to buy a backpack, basically, or a multi-tool. That's about
Even
it.
freaking worse, the Grimhex Racing. They both came around the same time, and
Yep.
like Grimhex Racing, I'm so devastated that they didn't use that for the racetrack they put in the yellow belt. I understand that it was probably too laggy and problems with that kind of stuff, but man, those two locations not fun to look back on.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to like retcon the lore behind Grimhex Racing and be like, so yeah, by the way, it's just over here now.
You
It's
can
near
gamble from here.
Grimhex. Yeah, it's near Grimhex, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
There'll be like webcams you can watch it on or something. I mean, listen, I've worked at a number of horse tracks. I can it, visualize people yelling at the TV screens at Grimhex telling the horses to go faster. So it's a thing that can be done.
Hey, give me 1 second. I've got the
Hmm.
call going on outside.
No problem.
In the meantime, actually, geez, sorry everybody. In the meantime, what was I just asking about? Dang it. We were talking about
We're talking about Grimhex Racing or the Mission Givers.
yes, the mission givers. So, oh yeah, how do you feel about missions needing you to physically go to get the missions compared to the mobiGlas?
Okay. I don't think you should have to physically go to them necessarily. I just think that it's okay. You know how when an NPC contacts you in the game when you're fighting them, their picture came up in your comms
Yeah.
area. Like
Hmm.
I think it's okay for somebody to get your phone number and call you. They somehow get your email address to send you
What
this personal message.
what is this? 2003? Call me?
Yeah,
Just shoot
or
me a
heck,
text.
yeah, but
Jeez.
they do shoot us a text, and I don't want to read it. Just send me
Yeah.
a video text.
Yeah.
Leave me a voice message. But the I don't know, I just look at it that way, as it's that I don't necessarily have to go and visit them, but
Hmm.
I really like when we do that. If that's again where it comes to like, this is why we play Star Citizen. It feels immersive, feels real, feels like you're living in the universe when you do things like that. When you go up to this guy and he starts talking to you and he sort of gives you a mission, because they don't really give you the details in their voice acting, right? They give you, "Hey, I got a mission for you. Let me send it to your mobiGlas," and then
Yeah.
you look at the details. But
Swing it on over. Minority Report
yeah,
style.
exactly, and that's cool too, I guess. But I prefer to go to visit them, but I don't think you have to necessarily. But I do want there to be more interactions and feeling like these people are real and interacting with you and not just text.
Yeah. Or
I don't
just
like reading. I'm not good at reading. I often, misread people's names or their comments in Twitch chat. I've never been good at reading, and it's just something that if a game is not voice acted, I don't play it
hmm.
for the most part. Yeah, it's just that I don't know. Like a lot of people say they're dyslexic when they're not. I'm not going to do that. I've never been diagnosed, but I also just didn't do well in school and didn't focus on and I've never that is a skill I don't have.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's just is what it is.
that's
So
fine.
I
And
don't enjoy it, and it's just how I feel about video games, you
I
know?
personally, I enjoy when everything's voice acted as well. I know
Yeah.
sometimes that's not always the reality, but it is nice. It's you
Yeah.
get so much more emotion out of it, and you feel a lot more immersed. So I agree. I don't think people should have to go to places to get missions, but I think we do need to have more interactions with NPCs in the game. Like there's a difference between getting a message or even a voice call over your Mobi Glass and like talking to someone in person. It feels
Mhm.
like you're actually in the world. So
Yeah.
I
And
would
I
like
mean,
to see
that's
some of
why
that.
we bought the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's why we're here.
All right. I've got two questions to finish us off with. Two, they're both kind of like pie in the sky. What are you looking for? Questions.
Okay.
So I think they're a little bit more fun. First is going to be, and you could pick something from the monthly report. You could pick something from what they've talked about at CitizenCon. But like, what's something that you're pretty confident is coming this year that you're pretty excited for? I think we talked about this last month, but now we've got some updated information.
I mean, I don't know if we talked about the mining change. That's everything to me for me
Yeah.
now, because I think everybody finds their way to pretend that Star Citizen is a game, and the way that I tried to pretend was like doing like big org mining operations, and they don't amount to anything. They don't mean anything. You make a bunch of money. What do you do with it? But the interactions between each other and figuring out the most efficient ways to do it was super fun, and just diving into that and doing that all over again is something I'm really excited for. Again, maybe it's a 319 feature. It feels like it's a 319 feature, but I don't know. And that is really it for me as far as like things that have kind of been out there. I mean, the missions, like everything around that update is really exciting, and the cargo refactor stuff because that applies to that too.
Yeah.
If they ever do ship-based refining, I mean, I would be in heaven. That would be sick.
I was going to say, man, the mining updates, what they're talking about coming in would be cool, but then combining that with like the cargo refactor, possibly vehicle
Hmm.
tractor beams,
Well, yeah,
PES, meaning
vehicle.
that you guys can like maybe remember where some deposits are like that. Yeah, the
Yep.
mining experience could be very different by the end of this year.
Not just remembering where the deposits are, but what if you like one of the ways that we did things how we had to do it before was I explained this in previous podcasts where I had an org account, and that org account spawned 3 ships. Those 3 ships were the ones who scooped up the ore. Everybody else flew their own personal ships, and they left the ore on the ground for that player to scoop up, but they had to wait there. So you couldn't leave like a mission box and share the mission box with them and then have
Hmm.
them come there because sometimes the ore would disappear.
Right.
Now, theoretically, you just leave a mission box there. Hey, there's 4 prospectors full of quantanium, or hopefully it's not quantanium. Hopefully it's another mineral. Fingers crossed, anything other than quantanium at this point. But
Yeah.
you just leave a box there and then people go and scoop that up. But then on top of that, tie that in with PES, and an org account can now spawn infinite ships. So
Yo,
every
that
ship
is.
can scoop and then could be sold by that owner's account until we get, actual org mechanics, of course.
And that's kind of like that's like a threshold past where you're combining mining with something else.
Yep.
And you can do that with salvage too, in that like you can
Yep.
do salvage and transport the salvage. And we're kind of seeing that with mercenary work and FPS missions and medics.
Dude,
And
these medics guys, I can't, the med runners,
oh
I
yeah, yeah.
can't get over these guys. These guys are so cool. They're crazy.
Yeah, I
I
haven't.
want to go on a run with them.
I've
That's like
seen.
one of my things I want to do this year is join them in a med running experience.
That would be cool. I haven't really looked into them. I've seen the name and I saw somebody post one of their videos, but I know, that's how this stuff is happening. I hate to say it, but it feels like the way to at least get a kickstart in completing your goal in Star Citizen is to start making YouTube videos about it. Like we see it
Yes,
with Mongrel
but
Squad
not
getting that with piracy.
yeah, but not complain about it. It's like this is why I talk about the thing. It's not about not complaining about it. Like why I talk about how I don't like the direction of where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
It's the the racing community made YouTube videos and just they actioned things. They didn't just
Yeah,
sit there and talk about it. They did stuff. They did something with it and CIG saw it and said, "You know what? I got you." You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And yeah,
Racing community's doing it. Piracy is doing it. These med
big
runners are
time.
doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing is, like, that happens and the video goes out and it gets big and people are like, oh, this is so cool. And you see it all the time. Everybody's like, this is happening. Like this happens in the
Yeah.
game, but it's so much. You can grow that sort of idea so much faster when you're putting content out about it and teaching people and showing people what they can do. So it's cool to see these
Yep.
med runners coming up with that. I'm excited
Dude,
to
it's
see what
so
they do with it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still think medical has a lot to be desired, but
Hmm.
again, when you take something that does have a lot to be desired, you're highlighting what's great about it. You also highlight what needs help,
Yeah.
and then that's when CIG usually goes, "I got you. I can. I think we could do this in a little bit of our free time while waiting for a dependency or whatever." And that's what happened with racing, right?
Yeah.
And I know that the cargo refactor guys are really interacting with the piracy community and making sure that things are uh you know piracy can exist but not be too much and making interacting with both sides and everything and trying to find a real balance there. So that's that's so exciting and so cool. And yeah, it's just I honestly, if you ask me what I'm excited about for this year, it's like what is the next racing uh update where they see, hey, the community is doing something cool and they do something to support it. I think that that would be another thing I would love to see from this year is what do they highlight, why do they highlight it, and how do they do it, and how fun it is and stuff like that.
Yeah. I would
'Cause-
love to see if they could come up with some kind of a long distance ship race. I don't know how that would work. Maybe Quantum Boost they could do that, but
Oh
the
God,
racing from the expanse where they like slingshot around planets. I know that's way
yeah.
too long distance for Star Citizen, but something smaller would be
What
kind of
about
cool
like
to
the
see.
Amazing Race? You ever watch that show?
I
I
didn't
never did,
really,
so I don't
honestly.
know about it. But I know that they like traveled the world, and it was this like really long race, and they had to like find things, and there were
That would be funny.
clues, and
I guess you could do that
yeah,
on a planet in Star Citizen. You could literally just be like, "Hey, spawn at this city and make it to that outpost. Whoever's there first
yeah.
wins." That would be
Yeah.
fun.
That is not my idea, by the way. That was a Disco Lando special, so I'm
Ah, okay,
got to give
okay.
him credit. He was like, "I would love to do that," and that was
Thank you,
something he
Jared.
would always wanted. Yeah.
Thank you. But getting back to what I was saying about like the professions, they're starting to pair up and work together, and that's kind of really cool to see.
Oh yeah.
That's
I
exciting.
mean, the cargo reef. I'm. I was so sad when they said the mining bags were not going to be removed.
Mhm.
Or could they technically can be removed, but they have to be removed via combat right now, but and then scooped up because you can't tractor beam them, right? So
Right.
that's why, like when you mention vehicle tractor beams, that's another massive feature because it's not just adding tractor beams to vehicles; it's adding tractor beams that can tractor beam things that make continue the cargo refactor to what it's supposed to be, which is, uh, you know, the Argo raft doesn't exist right now until you can drop those huge containers.
Yeah.
Uh, Same with the mole and the prospector. They're not taking part in the cargo refactor yet. Um, but the moment vehicle tractor beams come in, and I guess these freight elevators and things like that, is when it really turns on. That's the cargo refactor
Yeah.
for me.
It's
That
dude,
and
it's
the manual and automatic loading. Those are yeah,
these yeah,
exciting.
dude, these combinations like and this is like the main reason I wanted to make the video I'm putting out tomorrow is
Okay.
Pyro's cool. Server meshing is great, and obviously we need server meshing to go forward. But these feature combinations that we might see this year are so exciting compared to what we've
Yeah.
seen in previous years. Like, it's actual game stuff, and I'm glad
Yeah.
to see that.
And I don't think, it's gonna turn into the video game that we asked for yet. And that's
Yeah.
okay, because it's such a fun experience to tie those things together, work together with people and figure it all out, that it feels like you're playing the game at that point. You don't have the driving force behind doing the action, but learning about it and figuring out ways to do it and with everybody, and just doing it with everybody in general, the people that you play with, just make the game more fun
Yep.
also, right? And I'd love to do more of that. I just hope Star Citizen starts getting to a place that makes it a little bit easier
Same.
to
Because every
to
time
organize.
I find myself playing this game and not noticing that I'm playing the game, because I'm always thinking about, oh, I'm playing this alpha. I don't really care what's going on. My game's running at
Yep.
25 frames per second. I just got a PC upgrade. Like, my game's running better. Things are actually fun. Occasionally I forget. Like, I slip into this, oh, I'm just in space doing something cool. And I'm like, holy crap, this game could be good.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Every time
glad
I land on
that's starting to
Daymar,
happen. Daymar's
every time I
beautiful.
land on Daymar, I don't know why, you just look around and you're just like, what the hell, man? This is crazy.
Yeah, Daymar is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really
For
gotten
a
good
whole lot of
looking.
nothing, it looks good.
Yeah, just sand. And I hate
I
sand.
think I think it just put together why is it's one of the only places in the Star Citizen universe that looks like places here on Earth. Like,
Yeah.
if you've ever seen a desert, you can kind of been like, okay, I know what that looks like, and you feel like you're there. Where
Yeah.
everywhere else, I don't know, it doesn't give me, like, Hurston doesn't feel that real, and these other places are so futuristic. I guess Microtech does the same thing a little bit in the forests and
They
stuff.
also hit that like sci-fi cliche desert planet, ice planet. Like you
Yep.
see it a lot. So you hit it, you see it, and you're like, yeah, I'm living in that world now. It's cool.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, the other question I
sure.
had for you to finish off was actually something I heard you say on your own video.
Okay.
And I thought it was a really good take, but you mentioned that there is both.
Wait, I don't have any of those.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I think I might have written that in myself. Derivative of what you said. You mentioned like that originally this was kind of feeling like a Freelancer 2 kind of game, like complex but simple, packaged up in something nice, and then a nice bite-sized piece of what we're currently looking at compared to the Star Citizen that we see now, which, like you mentioned, 5 to 10 systems might be equivalent. It's more about the game itself and the features.
Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit on why you would prefer either one, or which one you prefer more and why?
Well, I backed for the initial game. I backed early on, so I knew what I was backing, and then that changed soon after I had backed. So the moment Procedural Planets happened, that's when things changed, and
Right.
the scope of the game changed, obviously. And they put a silly little vote out that we were all going to vote yes to, and like, how many people voted? 10,000, 20,000, to give them the go ahead to do whatever they wanted, and that's what they did. And it's why we're in the boat that we're in. And everything we talked about on this podcast so far about was a lot of none of those things really would have existed in the previous iteration of what I thought I was buying. But you and I both talked about those things in a very positive light, right? It's what separates Star Citizen from every other game, and why it's so interesting and why it's so exciting. So I don't want to take like a super negative approach at this, because it really isn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more along the lines of when people I think the video you're referencing was like, I watched this guy's video on the 100 star systems, and he clipped out a bunch of their commentary from
Yeah,
CIG
yeah.
over the course of the last 10 years or whatever about it. And a lot of, good half of the video is those early days where the game wasn't the game we're playing today. The game was Privateer 3 or Freelancer Next, or however you want to call it, where in those games you got close to a planet, you pressed a button, a cutscene started, and you went down to a landing zone, and you couldn't really interact with world that much. It was you clicked here, you talked to the bartender. Click there, you went to your hangar. Right? It wasn't
Oh, you weren't even
this in
walking around?
depth. Not in Privateer. I can't remember Freelancer, and I don't
Huh.
want to say wrong because people are so hardcore about Freelancer that I don't want to look like an idiot. It's been a while, and I have a bad memory since I
Okay.
played the game. But for the most part, that's how it was, right? So it was very simple from that extent, but the game had depth and it felt real. The immersion was there. Chris Roberts' stamp was on those games. It was 100%.
Mhm.
This is like a whole nother level of things, and they took the game that a lot of people backed and changed it completely. And uh, some things for the better, and the extremely long wait for the worse. Right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I always look, and it's not a realistic approach, and it's not a good take to have. But I always wondered what it would have been like if I just played Star Citizen that I backed, and they worked on procedural planets and all this crap in the background until it was ready to go. And, do we need server meshing then? Do I need everything to be seamless and not have loading screens? No, I don't. I don't. That's me. I do not.
Mhm.
But are those features incredibly cool? Yes. What separates Star Citizen from everyone else? I get up out of my seat of my ship. I walk around my ship. It's in quantum travel. Somebody else could be flying it. I'm walking around it. They're landing it. We get out together out of a real elevator. It's no cut, nothing. And I walk on a planet. I pull out an FPS gun, and all of a sudden, I'm playing a whole different experience. Like, nobody else is doing that really. Like, Elite's got their fake version of it, but I can't walk around the ships or anything like that. Like, it's just
It's unique.
you can't compare. It's unique. It's
Yeah.
special, and
Yeah.
that's fine. It's just the other game was cool too.
Yeah, it
I love
was.
those games. Those were my childhood. Like, I played Privateer 1 and 2 like a lot. I found out
S
what speaking of where you live, I found out what Constantinople was because a station in Privateer 1 was called New Constantinople, and I went in my Encyclopedia Britannical and learned about it,
Huh.
you know?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that the game would be as this is such a don't worry, like nobody expects a spot on answer with a question like this. This is a crazy question, but do you think the game would be as healthy? Like, let's say that they did what they wanted to do. The game came out in like, give them a little bit of time, 2017, but it was still kind of that more simple vision. And we played it for 5 years, 6 years, and we're at this point now where they're talking about a lot of these additions, but maybe it's limited because they didn't build the game for those additions, right? Maybe they're in the same position as Elite Dangerous with Odyssey. Do you think the game would have as good of health as it does now? And when I say health,
Okay,
I mean attention. And
I think I can easily answer this question because I think you're approaching of the would they have $500 million in funding? They wouldn't need it, so who cares? The that's first off. The only reason that they're pushing funding the way they are now is because they need it because they can't finish the game without it.
but
Like this is a
do you think
necessity is why they're doing what they're doing.
do you think people would be as interested in it though? Like you
They
said,
were.
what's going on
I,
with the game is what sets it apart.
yes, that is what sets it apart from the experience. But I do think that the game was still going to be an MMO.
Mhm.
And I do think that other MMOs have loading screens. And I do think other MMOs have, phasing and, use the limitations of the engine that they're using and build a really good game within it. And I think CIG could have done that. But like to go a little bit off on a tangent, I've never seen anything from CIG to prove that they can make a good MMO video game experience yet. That doesn't mean that they can't. They just haven't built that confidence in me. What was something that I was confident about was their initial plan and what they wanted to do. All
Mhm.
right, Arena Commander ships are really big focus of this game. We want to get the flight model down. We want to get combat ready to go. From there, we'll go procedural, not procedural planets, but the landing zone, and we'll do FPS. We want to make sure we get those down separately. We want those experiences to be good. That's what they went with. That was
Yeah.
the original
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, I remember that.
Is that what they do now? No, not really, right? We want to get all the features in. We don't care if they're good. Star Citizen is all about proving that they're capable of doing it now. Nowadays is, see guys, it is real. It's not a scam. That's everything that they're out there trying to prove. Is mining is in, medical is in, salvage is in now, even though this isn't salvage, this is hull stripping, right? Like just there, it's all about proof of concept for them.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not sure. It sounds like I'm saying that in an incredibly negative way. It not my intention to come out that way. It's just that's the shift they went with. And I think if they went with the direction of flight combat's really good, FPS really good, interactions between players really good, in-depth missions, storytelling, the locations that they do build, even though can't walk across an entire moon, Tomato, I still can walk across a fairly big cityscape, outpost, whatever. They can have the detail in those small spaces, but we didn't need this huge planet. So like level design, you know, if they focused on the things that made a good video game, would there be a lot of people playing it and talking about it? Probably.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just how I look
Mhm.
at it.
It's
And now you get a lot of people talking about how much money they have and how cool it looks. And is that a good thing? I don't think so.
it's definitely two different types of games, and
Yeah.
I think the hard part about this conversation is like you want to kind of be frustrated one way or another. You want to
Yeah.
you want to be annoyed that they could have had. Okay, I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth.
Yeah, because
I
I'm
want to
not.
have
I'm comfortable with where we are. It's just
right,
I
right.
wonder. It's just a wonder what if, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's easy to get very caught up in that thought and feel strongly about that. I have it's impossible to know what could have happened, but I don't think there's a wrong sort of idea of what the game should be. It's really just about what everybody wants. I think there's definitely like a responsibility to deliver an experience that at least caters to what people originally signed up for and not lose that original backing. But it's hard to do that when they've just changed the idea so much.
It's they changed the idea, but they didn't. Like I I went back and I watched the original GDC, Chris Roberts getting on stage, and man, he talked about Tony Z's economy quanta before it ever existed. Right
Mm.
then and there, the first pitch of the game. You know, we're going to separate the simulation from the game, you know, like all of it. They've all known what they wanted to do this entire time. They just haven't been able to make it happen yet.
Yeah, I
People
can't
call
wait.
it mismanagement, incompetence. You can add whatever you know, what you could give whatever reasons you want. You don't work there, you don't know. None of us do. And it just that this is where we are today. This was one of the outcomes that could have happened to Star
Yeah,
Citizen when it
one of the
started,
crazy
and
ones.
this is the one. You know?
And I gotta say, this outcome, as frustrating as it might be at times, is still really impressive when you think about everything that's gone down from when they started until now. How many people they have in different parts of the world. I'm actually like
How
pretty.
how easily it could have failed, and they're
Yeah,
still thriving.
I keep
Yeah.
looking at all these different games that come out, man, and like, I mean, I'm a huge Halo fan, so I'm sitting here watching freaking 10,000 people get their lives affected by the layoffs at Microsoft, and a lot of those layoffs happened in 343, the studio
Yeah.
who makes the game that I have tattooed across like half my arm. I'm a huge fan of it, and I see this kind of stuff happening in the industry, and I'm just like, man, there are so many opportunities for Star Citizen to just not work. It's kind of
Yep.
crazy that it's managed to make it this far. So, there's good and bad to be said about the whole thing. But I like
100%.
where it's headed. I like what we're seeing right now. I'm kind of bummed
What we're
on the timeline,
seeing,
but
yeah, it's okay. Who cares? We're here today. Everything that happened before doesn't matter if they're starting to deliver stuff now. And that's sort of my approach to things. Is you know, my community and my Discord especially can be quite frustrating because they have a hard time not looking back and applying whatever happens to today to the communication that they had in 2015, 2016, which is like, I'm sorry, man. It's hard to not use the word lie back then, because I feel like they knew a little bit more than they
dude, 2016
led
was
us to
bad.
believe. That was terrible, and I think they've learned a lot of lessons from those times, and have you know the results of delivering Star Citizen quickly or quicker has not happened. But I think the way they communicated now is still a lot better than it was then. I
Mhm.
just don't apply the things that they did then to the communication now. A lot of different. The whole studio is completely different people aside from like Aaron and Chris. Basically, it's just like so everyone's different from those days, and why should we? Sins of other people maybe are not as much of a problem. I don't know. I don't. I'm looking forward and seeing them interested in doing more gameplay stuff and supporting the players who are playing the game now, uh, in the meantime, while they're still supporting the framework of the game for the future. And
Right.
I think it's a way more positive and better situation than we've been in.
Yeah.
Even though it's still probably going to be a trying year in comparison to what we would hoped a couple of years ago, where we would be.
Yeah. We'll have some complaints about this year, but
Of course.
the things that we've talked about today, some of the stuff that looks like it might be coming this year, and even the stuff in 318, it's still going to be pretty fun in my opinion. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. This is a good talk. I am even more excited to go read that monthly report now. I skimmed it. Now I'm going to get into the details. But was there anything else
Expect
you
some
wanted to close with?
videos.
Yeah. I'll be making my video. I'm gonna be doing like a full read through on my stream. I guess this will, if anybody's watching or listening to this podcast, comes out Monday. If you got the time, drop into the stream. We'll be going live 2 p.m. UTC, and we'll do a huge detailed reading of the monthly report. But before we sign off, Mike, was there anything else you wanted to mention about the monthly report, the year ahead, the weather outside?
It's hot in Florida again, which is
Oy.
nice. It's been cold.
It's classic
Um,
January.
Yeah. No, other than that, not much. I'm just respect each other as best you can. I just like the commentary around Spectrum lately has been quite painful. I know Spectrum's not the greatest place in the world, but lately it's been rough. Just nonstop bickering. It's people are bored.
Yeah.
Do something else. Don't be bored, and yeah,
Find some other
it'll all
games.
be
There are
okay.
some good freaking games out. Go
Yeah.
play some
I've
of
never
them.
played Red Dead, so that's one of the games I'll be playing soon.
I actually
Yeah.
haven't played it either. I've watched the whole thing, and I wanted to play it when it first came out, but never got around to
It's
it.
too much. How do we find time to play games like that?
Yeah, it's a
Streaming,
big-
YouTube, family. How do you find time? I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just been playing a lot of Sudoku. Off time.
Yeah.
I'm on the
Yeah.
toilet for a couple minutes. Some Sudoku. That's where I get my video games now.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, let everybody know where they can find your content, and we'll
Okay.
sign off.
Well, Twitch, SaltEMike everywhere. If Salt with an E and then Mike, and basically I stream on Twitch. I make some YouTube videos, and I'm looking forward to making more gaming ones. I'm finally putting out a good guide. I'm really proud of it today. Security Post Korea guide of a feature I'm very, very excited about for 318. Probably my most anticipated 318 feature. So that's something I'm pretty happy about.
I will keep
And
an eye
I'm
out for that.
purposely not playing it because I'm hyped. Should be fun.
That's gonna, yeah. I look forward to it. I haven't experienced the Korea changes too much, but I'll keep an eye out so I know what to do.
It's great. It
Cool.
got even better recently too.
That is
You can
that
make
is good
money
to hear.
from it.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching or listening on your favorite audio podcast platform. If you're on YouTube, it's ad free on the audio platform, so feel free to drip over there if you would like to check it out. And if you're on the audio platform, consider becoming a supporter. You guys get exclusive videos. You get some behind the scenes. You get exclusive chat rooms, all for less than the price of this stress ball. Probably not actually, but close. And keep an eye out. I'll be doing a full summary of the kind of the highlights of this monthly report coming out this Friday. And like I said, I'll be streaming a detailed read through on my channel today when the podcast comes out. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. Thanks to all of you who came to our live show here on Twitch. We appreciate you. This has been The Launch Sequence, episode 87. SaltEMike has been with us. I've been your host, the good old Tomato, and I'll see you all next week.